introduce yourself and tell us what you do.
Okay, I should be looking at you.
Just me.
All right. Yeah, my name is Kosen Kenta, part of the Antler East Africa team. My role there is program director. And basically what I do is oversee the venture building program, end to end, from founders coming in all the way to actually them joining portfolio after getting investment.
Makes sense. And what does Antler do, really? For someone who doesn't know about Antler, like, how would you describe it?
So Antler, we are an early stage VC and venture builder. So in many ways, we are a traditional VC in the early stages, investing in pre-seed, seed, even Series A. But our core, I'd say, is the venture building side. So basically, we call ourselves day zero investors, basically helping people from the ground up. So we'll find ambitious individuals with diverse skill sets, various domain expertise. What we do is bring them together and support them now to identify painful problems that they're the right people to solve, and help them through that whole ideation process, from getting a lot of clarity on the problems they're trying to solve, building up to actually a solution that makes sense for the market, that the people are actually willing to pay for, and with a view of investing in the teams that we form.
There's many venture building companies, or many venture builders across Africa. There are many VCs across Africa as well. So what really makes Antler special?
What makes us special? I think, many things. Number one, I think is, you're right, there are a lot of accelerators and the rest, but I think as much as there are also people in that venture building space, I think we could always have more people investing in founders, investing in people first. So I think a lot of people want to sit where they're a bit more de-risked, at least in terms of people putting in money. And I think just the fact that we stay so early, that we are a day zero investor, is already something. And there are a few of us out there, but I definitely think there could be more. And we're always pushing to continue doing more and more for the ecosystem. I think we have a very robust community as well. We've been doing this for about 5 years. So
in Nairobi or across the world?
So our scope is across Africa, sub-Saharan Africa. Currently, our physical footprint is in Nairobi, where we now take in founders from across Africa and beyond. So typically, I'd say 70 to 80% of the people in the program are from Africa, and now 20% from even beyond. But people who are very passionate about building
in Africa,
for Africa, solving problems in Africa and beyond.
Makes sense. So when you say day zero, how day zero is it? Because some pre-seed investors would be like, what pre-seed, but get traction first. So how day zero is day zero? Day zero
is, we don't even necessarily need you to have a fully fledged idea. Literally, we're just going to say, for instance, I wanted to use the name, Peace. Is it okay? Because I do
yes.
Right, great. So Peace, for instance, we'll ask you we'll be looking at what's your domain expertise. What areas have you developed a very robust set of skills, like you have strong networks, basically a place where you have enough understanding of a space to identify a problem that actually is worth solving, that is actually painful, recurrent, frequent, something that now somebody would be willing to pay to have solved. So literally that's all you need. A strong set of skills, a deep understanding of whatever sector you'd like to build in. And because the reality is we found that very few, or rather, let me put it this way, when we look at our most successful portfolio companies, majority of them have changed in some shape or form. Again, when you're investing in people, that's the bar. It's the people. In terms of the idea itself, we understand that it's likely going to change. It's going to take very many different shapes. What we're trying to say is we're banking on people who we think could navigate those twists and turns, right? It's not that we expect a fully finished product. So at the end of the program, which is around 8 to 12 weeks, we've invested in as little as a pitch deck. Sometimes people can't get to a point where they have a prototype, they have something in market, but ultimately you could get investment from a pitch deck because exactly, it's 8 weeks for us to now really fall in love with the problem, build up towards a solution, and then
that makes sense. And so obviously you talked a bit about this already. What do you look out for? Like, I'm asking from the perspective of a founder. I have an idea, or I have the dream, to be a founder. And I'm saying, okay, day zero feels like I can walk into Antler, apply, and they can kind of like help me take that dream and that idea into something. But how do I know that I'm what they're looking for? You know what's fascinating? I've seen lots of brilliant ideas fall flat. Not because the content isn't good, but because the person is trying to say too much and too fast. That actually sounds like me sometimes. But yeah, I've seen a lot of pitches and done a few myself. And for feedback I have received and what I've noticed is that the most successful pitches, they're not the one that's the most complicated. They're the clearest. They're the ones where you can actually hear what the person is saying, not just the words that they're speaking. And that's why the free 3-step pitching guide from HubSpot, it's a valuable resource that you must download. Like literally stop right now and go download it. Because pitching isn't about the fancy jargons that you can get from ChatGPT or cramming every detail that you've written down. It's about the 3 C's, and you find that in the resource. Clarity, being able to make your message simple and easy to understand. Confidence, being able to deliver it in a way that actually resonates and shows that you know what you're saying. And connection, being able to focus on what really matters to the audience. This guide breaks down pitching into 3 actionable steps so that you can actually pass your message across and get it heard, right, to the people that matter, whether that's investors or it's customers or it's your audience or maybe it's just potential partners. It's not about what you say. It's never just about what you say. It's about how you say it. It's about crafting a narrative that sticks, that is memorable, and that people want to buy into. Whoever you are, this is not just for founders or entrepreneurs, it's for everybody. If you have an idea that you believe in and you want other people to key into it, to buy into it, to use it, then you should actually learn how to pitch properly. And the free resource by HubSpot will let you do that. Link here to download. Peace.
Well, that's a good question. Again, it's an extremely competitive program. We get maybe upwards of 5,000 applications per cohort. And so, yeah, we do have to have a criteria to now kind of cut that down. Yeah. So I'd say an important thing would be that domain expertise piece. And that might be a factor of a few years of experience in a certain space. So I'll be honest that somebody coming fresh from university, and granted, there are some outliers where some very young people in our portfolio, but again, it really reduces the chances of us believing that there is that level of domain expertise. So maybe you're thinking that I've been in a space, whether it's marketing, finance, logistics, whatever sector, we are sector agnostic, but if you've developed a certain level of expertise in a space, we'd be willing now to have a conversation around it. Another big thing I think we'd be looking for is problem solving and critical thinking. I guess that's a muscle. That's very hard to quantify, but that's what we'd be looking for, just your ability to problem solve. Again, given the fact that as you join, you're not anywhere near your final form. We're going to have to really work with you to really identify, like have a really bird's eye view of the space that you're trying to explore. So really understand the stakeholders, their challenges, try to have integrative thinking where you might have people with different considerations, but within the exact same problem, but many stakeholders with very different perspectives. And you need to navigate all of this. Think of other factors like policy, like licensing, competition. There's just a lot of things that are going to be thrown at you, and we need to build that conviction that you're actually somebody who can go about problem solving, think of creative ways to actually navigate that, especially since at the start you're a very small fish in a big pond, and you need to be able to navigate that. I'd say those are the key things. I'd say open-mindedness also is an important thing. I think we see sometimes people really fall in love with the idea. Like you envision it, you start building castles in the sky, you really think it's the best idea ever. And really the purpose of Antler will be to really make sure that whatever direction you're heading in is the best starting point, which means to some degree, when you have an idea, we're going to ask you tough questions that might... the hope is that it survives. We're not trying to break it. I mean, we're trying to see if there's a path forward, but it's a process of just really digging into the direction you're going and asking, is it actually the right one? So you might be at the solution, but you need to take a step back because maybe you haven't done enough. It's not as customer-centric as it should be. Thought about the idea, you've fallen in love with the technology, or fallen in love with what the product could be. You've not really asked yourself or talked to the customers and said, the customers actually need this. I think that's statistically the biggest reason studies have shown startups fail is there's no market need, and taking that step back is important. And
that makes sense. It sounds like you're looking for the individual. So I wonder, do you look out for solo founders? But what if I have a team already, or I already have like a co-founder, somebody that I want to build with? Would that has to be a good fit?
It would. In any scenario, in any of those scenarios, for instance, if you come in as a solo founder, yes, one of the core things that we support with, given the fact that we come in with a pool of founders, all like-minded, I think most people who are solo founders, they struggle to find somebody with the complementary skill sets, but then somebody who's also ready to make that leap. The beautiful thing about joining the Antler program is that you're all on the same wavelength. Everybody's joining with that mindset of I'm ready to take that leap. So everyone is 100% in. So we'd be able to support somebody who's coming in on their own. Because again, it's very difficult to get funding. VC funding as a solo entrepreneur. That's just the reality. So that's something that we would really try to think about building, and not just anybody, but a complementary piece, right? If you're building in tech, for instance, and you don't need the entire team to be developers, especially if you're looking at a domain where, let's say, you're doing healthcare.
Yeah.
Could be a techie, and maybe you've actually felt that pain of the healthcare system, maybe through your lived experience. It might make sense to find maybe somebody who actually understands the healthcare system, maybe somebody in the ops side, in the business side, who's actually been in the healthcare space. Maybe it's a doctor. But yeah, we'll be trying to build those complementary pieces together. Teams as well, we would take them. But again, they need to go through that process where, again, we are betting on the founders, which means...
So the individuals.
The individuals. So again, you could have one very strong founder, the second founder not as strong. That imbalance would worry us. It would be something that we'd have to think about. So again, it would be a situation where even if you're two, even if you're three, all of you as individuals need to, again, show that within the space, within your seat in the company, that you do make sense and that you are the right fit.
Yeah. What are some of your favorite stories since you joined the Antler program? Like founders who obviously came in with an idea, but then, became something else.
From nothing. I mean, there's so many because everyone is different. I think one of the things I really love about Antler is just, especially given that we're sector agnostic and we're guided by the founders coming in, is that I genuinely never know what's going to come in the next cohort. We don't make calls and say we're only building in, let's say, e-commerce, healthcare, anything. We just say, come with your expertise, come with your domain expertise, and we'll work with it. So maybe some interesting ones, I'll say things like we have a company we invested in called Kafresh. So Kafresh, they have designed a novel formulation for the extending of shelf life of horticultural produce. So again, massive implications on the ag tech space, all the way through the value chain from smallholder farmers all to the way to exports to other markets. So significant impact in that very significant value chain in the African context. And I love just showing the range. So you have something like that in ag tech, innovation in ag tech, and then you have something like we have a company based out of Ethiopia called Bimi. And Bimi, it's interesting because it's a gaming company, and it's two brilliant game developers from Ethiopia, born and raised, developed a game. I don't know if you played Temple Run.
Yeah.
They designed Kuklu, which is basically somebody chasing a chicken. And it's it's very fun, and they managed to exit that, and now they're trying to develop games that people doing live streams can use to engage their followers, like just increase engagement with followers. So again, now that's more not even necessarily an African play, that could be a global play as well. We have companies like Uncover. I think maybe from a direct consumer perspective, something that maybe the mass market might be familiar with. It's a skincare brand. And I know that sometimes seems very
not tech at all.
It's possible it's not tech, and that's maybe one misconception that it's good to clarify that. We invest in tech and tech-enabled. Like the way we view and innovation is maybe broader than what people think. People think of us as just pure software play. But if you hear Kafresh, if you hear Uncover, they are physical products that there's some element of brick and mortar, but they've demonstrated that there's a way for them to do this at scale, right? Leveraging tech. So still falls within our mandate. And again, it's also something that feels luxury, but I think for people who have maybe skin issues, with women who felt largely underserved with the skincare products in the market, these women of color, it's very much tied to health and wellness. And we love stories like that, and we see now them expand, get that product market fit, serve East Africa, West Africa, and are making plans now to also make a splash in the US as well. So we love hearing this. There's several. I think I could mention many, but yeah, these are the few that I feel just show the range of ideas, the different types of founders and sectors that we're exploring, and just betting on people to go in and win.
Makes sense. Final question. So Antler recently announced that it's going to have a physical space, right?
Yeah. In
Nigeria. What does that actually mean for, I guess, Nigerian founders or like West African founders in general?
Yeah. So typically, since the Nairobi office, Antler office was the only one serving all of Africa, there are obviously limitations from both our end and the founders as well, where, for instance, we do get quite a few applications from South and West Africa, particularly West Africa, and founders would be forced to uproot their lives and come into this market. which, I mean, it's harder for them to also ideate or really validate their problems and their solutions when a lot of their problems they're really well versed with, maybe in that market, at least as a flagship market. So it did always make sense to now have a physical presence in West Africa, so that number one, founders based out of West Africa, now have one hub where they could actually access far more easily. We know the size of like the economy in Nigeria, so we know like we're going to, it's going to be an option where they don't have to come all the way to East Africa, and we can now focus on the East African market. And for us, of course, it's now we're building a team. The partner leading that is Anil, extensive experience in Nigeria, just building and innovating and being part of that ecosystem. And now having people now with that deep context of West Africa, now again, a team dedicated to that context, I think can only serve to improve, to increase the number of investments we're making in West Africa, as well as actually give them the support they need on the ground. But that's not to say, again, given the fact that when thinking about expansion, people are always thinking, it's maybe the big four, or it's always like, you might start in Nigeria, but you're thinking of tapping into East Africa through Nairobi. Same with people who are building out of Nairobi, you're thinking Satya, moving to Lagos. So now suddenly we have this connection and this, because we are one Antler ultimately, and we have this connection that helps us kind of bridge that.
Makes sense. Final question. So we talked a lot about the venture building aspect and how Antler helps to develop the idea and the solution, but not necessarily in terms of the investment terms. So if you go through the Antler program and Antler is investing in you, typically how much money is there, like the terms that you can share as well, so people know that, I get the mentorship and coaching and all of that, but then if my idea is good enough, this is what I stand to get at the end of the program.
Yes, so the investment terms for people going through the venture building route, again, remembering we're building from the ground up, is $100,000 for 10% stake. Additionally, we do have, again, because I guess we recognize that there has been in the past year plus where we've had a pretty, I'd say, tough funding climate, whereas where before due diligence was taking a few months, maybe 2-3, you could actually close the term sheet. Now it's extending to 6-9, maybe even a year of conversations. And so what we've been trying to do on top of the 100K that we give from the jump right out of program is we have an additional allocation for 100,000, which will give us matching funds. So if you're able to secure 100,000 from other investors, we will match up to 100,000 at that value, at the valuation you're raising at the time. And what we're hoping that does is just, I guess if there is FOMO from investors, just the reality that Antler is saying we will come in.
So technically, potentially, rather, companies can get up to 300K.
Exactly, up to 200 from Antler, and now 100 from some investors, up to 300 within the first maybe 9-12 months post-program.
Makes sense. Any final words that you want to share about, or anything else you think that we need to know about Antler?
No, I think we've covered it in the beginning. I think that's just the important thing we want people to know is that we exist. We are here to fund the brightest and most talented minds coming out of Africa, solving real problems on the continent. And again, you don't need to have the greatest idea. What you have, like you undervalue what you have, which is your skill set, domain expertise, and the fact that, you've been being in a space long enough, you can identify problems that maybe might be obvious to you, but not obvious to maybe others around you. And we're just trying to tap into that, harness that, and really support and give you the guidance and the structures you need to actually succeed in building a venture.
Awesome.
Great.
You did great.